All right, I can't talk. I can't make that sound and talk. But shout out to Walking Dead Zombies and any producers and showrunners of The Walking Dead or Fear of the Walking Dead that may be listening in on the Spun Today podcast, episode number 34. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. That is my zombie voice, ladies and gentlemen. My fiance likes it because she loves the show. I've seen the show every once in a blue with her. Not a big fan, but it's a good show. Just never really got into it. And don't feel like putting in the work to, watch the whole thing and like really invest myself. It's one of those, it seems like one of those shows that you got to like really be into. Like Game of Thrones and like shit like that, which is another one that I can never get on board. But yeah, that's my zombie voice. People like it. And I'll definitely be on the show if anybody within that realm needs some extra zombie sounds that I'm pretty sure they could just fucking press a button for and have unlimited versions of, but whatever. Like I said, folks, welcome to episode number 34 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. Today is November 18th, and the podcast comes out tomorrow. I procrastinated my ass off these past 2 weeks and left the podcast for the evening before. It's fucking like almost 10 p.m. And I had a really long day at work, and yeah, that's why I'm recording it now. So, let me just give you guys a quick little rundown of what this show is going to be or have. It's going to contain, but not limited to, UFC 193, Rousey vs. Holm. I'm going to speak about that. I'm going to speak about going to see my favorite basketball player, greatest of all time, Kobe Bryant. I wanted to see him before he retired. Watching a new show on Netflix called Master of None. It's Aziz Ansari's new show. And also watching a miniseries that's on HBO called Show Me a Hero, which was dope. And watching the movie End of the Tour. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Going to see the hilarious and prolific Bill Burr, the comedian, for those of you that have been living under a rock. And I'm going to read a couple dope, I don't even know what they're called, verses, pieces from the Tao Te Ching that I've read recently. Just like in the past episode, I read a couple of them. There's a couple more that I read subsequent to that I wanted to share with you guys. And of course, a couple of my shitty writing pieces from spuntoday.com/free writing, 2 posts. And I'm going to round up the show with a listener questionnaire that was filled out. That was really good. Just finished reading it again in preparation for the show. And I'm going to share that with you guys in a bit. So, taking it back to the top, UFC 193. Holy fuck, man. What an upset. For those of you that don't know, Ronda Rousey, the women's bantamweight, if I'm not mistaken, women's champion, undefeated. I think she had an 11-0 record. Was going up against, and just to give you guys a little bit of context again, if you guys been living on the rock and don't know who Ronda Rousey is, she's the known as the Mike Tyson of the UFC for the women's division. Like she literally had, I don't know, like 5 or 6 fights in a row that didn't last more than like cumulative more than like a minute and a half. Each one was like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 50 seconds, like shit like that. She's a beast. and she was facing her, biggest competitor to date. Every fight they play it up that way. This one might be the one to take out the champ, especially when you have an undefeated champ. And obviously hindsight is 2020, but Holly Holm, which was her opponent and the challenger, definitely fit that description. She has a different style. She has multiple world boxing records and like medals and like world championships in boxing and kickboxing. And it's a completely different style to Ronda's, which is more of a grappling judo type of style that she has. So she has to like get in there, flip you, fucking armbar you, and rip your arm off. And which is how she won most of her fights. But she's a beast. She's won fights just by like boxing and pounding out opponents and shit like that. And so she has that style, and Holly Holm has the keep the distance and box and kickbox and fuck you up that way style. Holly Holm was also undefeated, so it was a pretty dope matchup stylistically. Then on top of that, Ronda's usually her opponents, like get under her skin and like talk shit about her, or not get under her skin. That's framing it a little incorrectly. They like attempt to get under her skin and they say like negative and fucked up shit. Like her previous opponent, Betch Correa, made not light, but like made fun of the fact that Ronda Rousey's father committed suicide and said that she should kill herself also, or something like that. And Ronda Rousey like just pummeled her, like within seconds, knocked her the fuck out. And she's usually like the composed one, Ronda Rousey, and like the composed one basically. And this time it was like the other way around. The opponent, Holly Holm, who's known as I think her like nickname is the preacher's daughter or something like that, is completely stoic and like super like sweet, nice person, she seems like, and that's what she puts out. According to Ronda, she's a fake bitch or or whatever. And I don't know, I guess part of what was within the mix of, I guess, Ronda losing, in my opinion, is the fact that she had that different like psychological makeup than any of her previous opponents. Her previous opponents were talking shit, saying I'm gonna take you out, I'm gonna take that belt from you, I'm gonna take away that O. And Ali Holm was the complete opposite, like respectful, and like even in the weigh-ins, for example, like the day before the fight, they weigh in to make sure that they make weight and have a face-off for the fans and promotion cameras and shit like that, the media. And they, in the weigh-ins, she was completely stoic and just standing there, and Ronda Rousey was the one that like got in her face and kind of like not punched her but like mushed her kind of. I saw it from the other angle, from the angle that everybody saw. It just seemed like Ronda, for no reason, lifted up her left arm and came around and just like pushed in her face or whatever. But when you see it from the other angle, from the opposite angle that everybody can see, and somebody like filmed it like on their cell phone, and somebody else that was on stage, and you see when Holly Holm put her hand up, she kind of like gets in between or like grazes Ronda's hand, because they're both like standing up with like fists in the air. And I guess that triggered, like she made the first like contact in that sense. It didn't seem like in a disrespectful way, if I had to guess, but who knows? It could have been intentional, and that's obviously how Ronda took it, because then Ronda just came around and like mushed her and like pushed her. And then from the other vantage point, it just seemed that Ronda did it for no reason, because from the angle that they were standing in, you couldn't see Holly Holm's hand like come up and like touch Ronda's. So that was interesting, but whatever. Just like her composure was off. It was different. I also noticed her mom, which is her biggest, I guess, I don't know, like inspiration and coach, and is always in her corner, and she herself was like an Olympic judo champion or something like that. Her mom, and she wasn't in her corner for that fight, and supposedly there's some rift going on within that, and some issues with her coach that people have been criticizing lately. And I don't know, just like her composure was off. Certain things were different like that, I guess, like on the psychological tip, like those handful of things. And then she came out in this fight more aggressively than normal. Like she was the one charging and coming after Holly Holm, even though she has a couple times in the past like done that, but she kind of like feels it out first, and then sometimes like her opponents are just like try to like bum rush her, and she just flips them and uses like that like leverage against them and fucks them up. And this time she was the aggressor, and Holly Holm was more of the counter puncher and counter striker, and it fucking worked. And you know, congrats to Holly. And it just fucking sucks for Ronda. Like, I've I heard on a few podcasts, and I agree. Like, I really admire and like seeing greatness, and not that Ronda's not great anymore because she lost one, or the Holly Holm's not great, and now we're witnessing like her rise to greatness because she's 11-0 and she's a new champion and she's undefeated. But I don't know, like part of you like doesn't want to see that happen, but you also want to see the best of the best win and rise to the top. And I'm definitely anxious already to see it, like a rematch. And another thing that factors in is Ronda Rousey being in all these fucking movies and shit like that, and her, I guess, attention being taken away a little bit from training and fighting and stuff like that. That has to factor in on some level. And yeah, it just fucking sucks. I mean, can't make excuses for it because everybody makes their own decisions and gets into whatever it is that they want to get into. And in this case, it was a perfect storm of shit it turned out to be that particular night for her. But I would definitely love to see a rematch and see what the deal is. See how she rises after getting knocked down like that, and shows that true champion edge, and overcoming adversity and all that is going to be like an interesting story and chapter in her fighting career to watch. And she was the real deal, like real like champions are made of what? You have a combination of talent, hard work, and opportunity, I guess I would say. And any combination thereof. You can either be talented as fuck, but if you don't work hard, if you don't put yourself in positions to open up the right opportunities, then you kind of fall into the Sonny from A Bronx Tale anecdote of wasted talent, right? So you have talent, and then you have hard work, which hard work alone, you could just be a very hardworking ditch digger, not opening opportunities for yourself on one hand, and then not having the talent to, let's say, this analogy has been made before. Two fighters that work equally as hard, and one of them has like natural talent and ability, like John Jones or something like that, which is known for being physically fucking just gifted. No matter how hard you work, you're not going to be on equal footing with him because he has that talent edge on you and that gift kind of edge on you. So you have that hard work aspect, and then you have the opportunity aspect where, being like in Ronda's case, I see her as like the right fighter at the right time in the story of the UFC and just like society in general, and being ready to see a woman champion like that. And if it was someone, she has like that it factor to capitalize on that opportunity. And if it was somebody maybe like Holly Holm now, then not taking anything away from her, but she kind of just has like that stoic kind of not going to give like the media what they want type of personality, I guess you can say. And who knows, if she was the champion all this time, how much the women's division within the UFC and the UFC would have blown up in general. So Ronda was the right person at the right time, kind of, to capitalize on that specific opportunity. And it's just like there's a balance within those three things, I think, to create greatness. And it has to come together in the way it did and has for her. And it's something that aside from the talent, the other two can be worked towards and worked on. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how she bounces back from that. And that was UFC 193. And speaking of the fall of one of the greats, I hate to say it, but Kobe Bryant is not a shocker, but is in the final stages of his career. I'm very happy that I took one of my boys' advice. Shout out to Pablo, who I had a conversation with him once long ago, and we were just speaking about basketball in general, and just having one of those who's better, Kobe or Michael Jordan conversations. And of course I say Kobe because I'm completely 1000% biased towards him, even though stats and shit probably say otherwise. And he asked me if I ever got to see him play live, and I said no. He told me that I should before I can't anymore, and I kind of never thought of it like that, I guess. I never thought of it enough to factor that in, like, oh shit, it's gonna be a day that he's not playing and I won't have that opportunity. So I made it a point to make sure that I went this year, being that I think it's his last year on his contract, and the way he started off the season was just like, yeah, he's definitely retiring this year. And it was a dope experience. I went with my fiance, and who just made some banging tacos, by the way. Wifey hooked it up. Shits were banging on full right now. But yeah, we went to Barclays Center when the Lakers came to play the Nets, and I hadn't been to Barclays Center, so that was cool just to see it. And our seats were fucking dog shit, but we were like literally, she was scared. We were the last final seat, like on top, like the nosebleeds of the nosebleeds. Like literally there was no seats behind us, and our heads were touching the wall of the actual structure of the stadium. But it was a really cool experience to see. And in that game, it was if you guys remember, both the Nets, which also suck, and the Lakers were both hadn't won a game. I was gonna say undefeated, but it's like the exact opposite of undefeated. They were completely defeated, both teams. So one of them was gonna come away with the win, and it was actually the Lakers that came away with it, which was dope. And Kobe didn't have a particularly impressive game, but he did have one moment in the fourth quarter, which we left right before it. So I was like kicking myself for that, or right like when the fourth quarter started. But I saw it afterwards, like in the Uber on the way home. I was like looking up the score and the highlights, and Kobe had one of those reverse layup, like from coming up from the sideline, of kind of like behind the basket type of thing. That's like classic Kobe. He had one of those moves, which is dope to see, and dope that it happened in that night. Well, it would have been doper to see if I was still there, but it was dope that it happened in that night anyway. And I took my camera with me and got a lot of dope pictures, which probably I haven't even uploaded them to my computer, to be honest. I still have them in the camera. But I'll probably share them like either on Twitter or Instagram or something like that with you guys, so you can check those out. Let me jot that shit down so I don't forget. Add Kobe pics to IG. At Spun Today on Twitter and at Spun Today on Instagram. Look out for those. And that was pretty much it. It was pretty dope, pretty cool, and I'm definitely glad that I checked that off the old bucket list. Kobe was one of, there were, I want to say definitely two, but three what I consider greats that I called that, in hindsight of, people are probably like, no, duh, no shit. But when I was in junior high, I was in 7th grade. Kobe was instantly my favorite player when he got drafted in 96, 97. And I knew that he was a great, which listening now might not seem like it's a big deal or whatever, because there was like so much hype around him, being an 8-year-old into the NBA and stuff like that. But don't get it twisted though. There was a bunch of people like that. There were a lot of successors to Jordan. There were a lot of, oh, he's going to be the next Jordans. And Kobe was just one of those people on that list. And there was a lot of naysayers and a lot of people that would say otherwise are always going to, I remember someone told me at the time, oh yeah, but he's good now, but if he breaks his ankle next season or something like that, then his career's over and he's not going to do shit or whatever. And, there was like, who else good? Like Kevin Garnett at the time went into the league early. Tracy McGrady, who Kobe, if I'm not mistaken, said that Tracy McGrady 101 was his biggest competition in basketball. Iverson, fucking Eddie Jones was still on the Lakers, and he was like one of those, could be the next Jordan type of dudes. Who else? There was a dude that they called Baby Jordan, Harold Miner, if I'm not mistaken. You had him, Tim Hardaway. There was like a company of these people that could be like that next dude. It wasn't just like everybody's a fucking scrub and this 18-year-old phenom comes into the league and it was like, duh, it's easy to call. But definitely instantly I jumped on board. I've been a Laker fan and a Kobe fan ever since. Because I'm a fucking loyal dude like that, you know what I mean? And I literally wrote down a sticky and put it on the computer to not say ums and not say and this episode. So I'm trying to consciously cut back on that, and every time I say and I fucking look at the little sticky. And I'm still saying it a lot, but whatever. It's a work in progress. There's another one. Yeah, so I called him. That was one. And the another one that I called, unrelated genre or whatever, was Eminem. And that was another one that, when we burst out on the scene with the Hi, My Name Is or whatever song, there were some that were like a one-hit wonder. There was some that were definitely like bandwagon type, oh, this is the shit, like type of fans. But I saw, and I'm not like blowing smoke up my own ass or whatever, but there was something that I saw in him that was like, he's definitely going to be one of the greats, like greats, like that's going to transcend this like mainstream shit, which he absolutely did. And I'll get much more into Eminem in future episodes that I have planned of breaking down his albums and stuff like that, and his writing that I started working on already, but I want to put the attention that it deserves into that. And so that's going to take some time, so I'm not going to tell you guys like a date or anything like that, or make any promises on a specific timeline. But it was Kobe, Eminem, and those are 100% two that I called from the gate. I called, and another one which wouldn't be technically from the gate, but and I'm 100% biased towards as well, would be Joe Rogan and the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Like when I heard it instantly, I was like, this is gonna be an amazing experience, if you pardon the pun, and it's going to be something that's going to continue. Like I've told the story before, but the first episode I heard was like 180 something or something like that, and it was with Ari Shaffir, and I was like instantly enamored with and it was the first podcast that I had ever heard, and I was just like enamored with with the medium itself, but most importantly with like their like outlooks on things, both Joe's and Ari's, and the way they express themselves, and just like the free flowing ideas and conversation and shit like that. And it was already, you know, he was already big as fuck at that time, within that world, but it's just continued to build momentum, and it is like a huge fucking like movement now. And so that one's, I don't want to take credit for calling that one, because it was already like more than like a quarter into what it is. What is it now, like episode 700 and something. I picked up on it and vouched for it in 180 something, so whatever that's worth. But the other two, Eminem and Kobe, I call them shits. And that's it regarding the whole Kobe thing. This is gonna be a long fucking episode. It's almost half hour already. And the next thing is Aziz Ansari has a new show on Netflix called Master of None. I highly recommend it. I saw it with my girl, and it was really, really funny. I love that Netflix just puts out like an entire fucking season, like in one shot, like that binge watching thing that market that they cornered was such a great idea, and really cool, especially with how much like content is out there now, and people just want it, and they want it right away, and they want to be able to get through it so that they can jump onto something else to watch or to read or to listen to. And it's just a smart move on Netflix part, so kudos to them. But Aziz Ansari, who's I've seen a bunch, probably I don't know how many specials he has, but I've seen like more than one or two, and watch him only have one. But I've seen, yeah, he definitely has more than two, and I've seen them all. He's a really funny stand-up comic, for those of you that don't know, which I'm sure everybody in the fucking world knows. He also played MSG, and he's funny as hell. My girl really likes him also. Hands off, Aziz. And the show was just fucking spectacular. One of the funniest, or not funniest, but one of the aspects of the show that I like the most, because I like fucking weird shit, is the fact that he expresses and says like out loud, like within the show, and not just him, but just it's like part of the like the tone, I guess, of the show, if that's the right word. That shit that people think when they interact with each other that they don't say, that, you know, none of us say to each other, they say, and it's part of their actual dialogue. And it's really like interesting to see. It's like, yeah, I would think that exact same fucking shit, and but I would never say it. And not just like negative or like fucked up shit, or like ballsy stuff, but just like in awkward situations. Like, for example, there's this one scene where he's debating with two of his friends if he should ask the bartender that he thinks is cute out on a date, and they finally convince him to do it, and he goes up to her and he does it. He asks for the number and invites her out, and she agrees, and she gives him the number, and then he went up to her, which was behind the bar, and he's sitting with his friends at a different table. So picture that setting. And after she gives him the number, then he's like just standing there, and then he says what anybody in that position would be thinking, I think. And he just expresses it to her, and he's like, well, I guess this interaction's over then. And she says, yeah. And then he's like, all right, bye. And then turns around and walks away. So that's something that's like riddled throughout the entire show. And aside from being funny as hell, because he's a funny dude, and just dealing with like real life moments and stuff like that, and real life situations, especially he's like within my age group, so there's a lot that resonates with me also from watching the show. And it's really cool. And just like dealing with technology and like texting, and I know he's like, I don't know if the right word is an advocate, but he feels strongly about the fact that we like lose ourselves within our phones, and we text a lot as opposed to speaking to each other and stuff like that, and that there's something being lost there and how things were versus how they are now. So you get a bunch of that riddled throughout the show, but also being of our age group, we embrace that, but we are also within the cusp of the generation that remembers pre-internet and pre-cell phones and shit like that. And that's pretty cool. And we're really we're the last generation that's like that, because anybody born like thereafter is like they're born into the internet and fucking pop out of pussies with fucking tablets in their hands and shit. And what else? Oh, something super dope that he did. His real actual parents are his real actual parents on the TV show, and his parents are two immigrants that migrated from India, and they he's had them on when he had his special at MSG. He brought them out at the end, which must have been like amazing for him to be able to do. I know I would love to do something like that, and just bring out your parents that are from a different country and migrated here, and then to show them you at like one of the biggest moments and pinnacles of your success, so they can like enjoy it with you and be proud of you and share that moment with them. Must have been like amazing. He brought them out into the stage with I think MSG holds like 18,000 people or something like that. It must have blew their fucking minds. Anyway, his real parents, which I recognize from that, are his actual parents on the show. So they're like horrible actors. They have no acting experience, but it's just dope that he has like that much pull to say and to put the creators of the show or Netflix or whoever in the position of, oh, you guys want me to be in the show? Well, my parents are going to be my parents on the show, and it must be cool for him to be able to work with them, and just again dope to be able to have that pull, and cool for them. Must be like a dope experience for them. And that is Masters of None, Aziz Ansari's new show on Netflix. Another show that I saw that I got into, I remember I bumped into this show I thought it was a movie, and it was a couple months ago. I was scrolling, it was late night, couldn't sleep, it was probably like midnight or something like that, and I wound up watching it, and then it ended like without the story ending, and then I realized that it was there was another one, so I thought it was just like a 2-part movie or something like that, and I got into it right away because it's called Show Me a Hero, because it was about local politics, and I like that type of shit. And the protagonist of the movie was a guy that I mentioned to you guys when I went to India the first time. It's probably in India Part 1 or India Part 2, from my first trip to India, when one of the movies I saw on the plane was called A Most Violent Year. And I said the protagonist from that, which reminded me of the guy that played in Boardwalk Empire, I forget his fucking name, Lucky Luciano from Boardwalk. He reminds me of him, but it's not him. And he reminds me of him, and he was a dope actor. I really liked him in that movie. Then I saw him playing in this, so that also called my attention to it. So then I saw like an episode and a half, and then I read it off as being a 2-part movie, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then my brother told me about it like a couple months later. He was like, oh, you should watch this miniseries on HBO, which is pretty good. He told me, and I was like, oh shit, it's a miniseries. And then I remembered that I'd seen it and shit like that, but then I picked up where I left off and continued watching it. And I saw like 2 more episodes. It's a 6-part miniseries. And then I saw 2 more episodes on like a day off that I had from work, and then I finished it off like a couple weeks ago on another day off that I had. And it's the youngest mayor, the youngest big city mayor in America. He was the mayor of Yonkers, and it's based on a true story of his life. And spoiler alert, by the way, if anybody who hasn't seen it, He's a one-term mayor. He was in the city council before that, and it's it's based on a true story, so it's kind of like biographical kind of. And he loses because it's at a time, I forget the time period, but I want to say maybe 70s, 80s, probably 80s, when Yonkers, which was like an all-white neighborhood at the time, and they were going to have a public housing built, and there was going to be some like gentrifying, I guess would be the correct term, and it was going to be different races moving into the neighborhood, and there was opposition from the current residents, some of the current residents, which are racist as fuck, and it was pretty interesting to see the progression of that town in that area through that time, and because he and all the like political and just bureaucratic like stuff that goes on behind the scenes aside from the public, that kind of like and legal aspects to it, with like courts getting involved and like shit like that, that push certain things through to make things happen. It's interesting to see like all the different pieces of the puzzle that come into play with big issues like that. It's not just about who the people vote in and vote out and stuff like that, but people that get voted in and voted out kind of are a little bit like riffraff in a sense. They get caught like in the crosshairs of whatever's going on, whether it's something that's bigger than them or not. This was something that was bigger than him. It was going to happen regardless. He was actually for it. He saw it as a long term, as a good thing. But at first he was kind of like against it. He was kind of like most politicians, kind of stick your finger in there and see which way the wind's blowing type of thing. But then like at some point he became really for it and like an advocate for it, and you could say it's because he knew that he had no fucking choice anyway, that it was going to go through whether they liked it or not, or the way they depicted it in the miniseries, that he kind of had like a change of heart and like really felt like it was a good thing for the neighborhood, as some of the tenants, not tenants, some of the people, current residents, had changes of heart and realized that it was a good thing, and they don't have to be afraid of different races and racist and like shit like that. And like the story is pretty much about him, and then he winds up getting voted out of office because of the whole housing issue, because he voted for it, and obviously his opponents that ran against him, made light of that. Everybody voted for his opponent because of it, because his opponent said that he wouldn't let the housing get built, and of course, he couldn't do dick about it either. He was just a full of shit politician and telling the people what they wanted to hear. So he got voted out, and then throughout the rest of the miniseries, which is cool because it shows the different, like a handful of different families on both sides. Like on the white side, where of residents that lived within Yonkers, then there's on the black side and Hispanic side, people that lived in different projects, and it shows like different families, and the girl that gets knocked up at an early age and whose boyfriend is in and out of jail, and then she just keeps getting like pregnant from him, and she's in love with him, but he's just like fucking a retard and like fucking her and getting her pregnant on purpose, and like putting holes in the condom and stuff like that, because in his mind he feels love if she's giving birth to a seed. If not, then she doesn't love him, and she, just like different. Then you have like a really hardworking like Spanish mother that is trying to raise like 3 kids. She's from Dominican Republic, and then she has to send the kids to DR because she doesn't have money to feed them, and she sends them to like her mom, and then she tries to go back to DR, but then she can't make it there because there's no like future for her kids. So she comes back and she lives in the projects, and she's working and trying to make ends meet, and then she wins her kids back, and yeah, the story of like that family, and then like a bunch of different families like throughout the thing. So it's pretty dope for like from that sense also. And then have the whole all the political shit going on, which I always find interesting. And even like on a municipal level like that, probably even more interesting at that level, I think. And because it feels like more there, right? It feels like more. You could walk over to your fucking assemblyman or city council's office and actually fucking speak to them. They're more like accessible. It's more, you could see like not immediate, because fucking bureaucracy and bullshit politics exists like on every level, but you can see changes to things that are actually changed. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a change at the federal level is kind of like shifting of the ship, a degree or two to the right, that you kind of see implications of an impacts of whatever that change is like years down the line. But on a municipal level, it's like fucking turning a speedboat around or whatever. Fucking change shit left and right. Or you could see it more frequently, I guess, is what I'm looking for. But anyway, long story short, he gets voted out of mayor. He's depressed, and fucking the next election after that decides to throw his hat back in the race, and not for mayor, because he's doing it for the party. He mentions that he wants to do it. He thinks he could win again. He does have some sort of support behind him, but then the guy who's poised to run at that time tells him, to unify behind him, and then he'll give him a position within his cabinet, and then he's full of shit, obviously, and he goes with it for whatever reason, and he thinks it's a good thing, and then but he kind of like hedges his bet a little bit, and he decides to run for city council, and barely wins, and he runs for city council in the seat that he was city council of beforehand, and he barely gets in, so he's like down on himself, and he's like, he almost lost the seat that was his fucking before he was mayor. So it was like, what the fuck? Should have been like a shoo-in for that. And then he tries to run for mayor after that and loses. And so obviously he loses. He vacates his city council seat, and then he just starts scrambling. He wants to run for something. Then he runs for something. I think for, what was it? Did he run for mayor again and lose? Or he ran for like assembly and he lost that? Yeah, I think that's what it was. And he lost that, and then he ran against his like best friend, which was a chick that was like the president of something, of the borough president maybe, or something like that, or city council president. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was city council again. He went back to the city council, a different district, and tried to run against his best friend, like turned his back on her, and it was like, what the fuck? Just like burning bridges left and right like a dick, and just political suicide. And everybody turned his back on him. He felt like shit. Wasn't accomplished more. He felt into depression and wound up putting a gun in his mouth and fucking killing himself. And it was an interesting life to like see. Interesting story. To kind of not witness, because we're fucking there, but like I said, it's based on a true story, so it's pretty dope. I recommend it. It's called Show Me a Hero. And speaking of suicide, it's fucking the suicide podcast over here. I saw a movie that my brother also put me onto this, which was End of the Tour movie, and this was a drama biography, which is based on the true story of a writer and journalist called David Lipsky, who was interviewing the author David Foster Wallace of Rolling Stone magazine. And those of you that want an idea of who David Foster Wallace was, take a look at a commencement speech that was really dope called This Is Water. It's on YouTube. There's a link in the episode notes. If you guys wanna check it out now, you go ahead and come back to the podcast after. But it's a really, really dope commencement speech that I recommend. It's one of the really good ones. So check that out, and it'll give you an idea of who he was. But he was like this big shit writer that like blew up out of left field, and all within the realm of writing, it was like they were writing about him like all the awards for best writer of the year and stuff like that for the next X amount of years are already going to be taken by this guy because of this book that he wrote called Infinite Jest. And he was just like one of those like most writers, like introverted weird dudes that like lived by himself with 2 dogs, and it was the writer and journalist for Rolling Stone magazine, David Lipsky, which decided to go on a book tour with this guy. This guy was on a book tour. He decided to like hitch a ride with him basically and interview him and write a piece for Rolling Stone. And it shows like their relationship and them playing, you know, mental chess with each other for most of the time, but really taking a liking to each other and then hating each other and then liking each other again. And David Lipsky kind of like resenting him in a sense because he didn't feel that he could be like as good of a writer as David Foster Wallace was, but he wanted to be. And David Foster Wallace kind of like he tells him at the end, he tells him, "You don't want to be me," and he kind of says it like in a weird, sincere kind of way, like this is how I took it. I didn't take it as like a condescending way, but it was kind of like a acknowledging, like, yeah, you're not going to be as good as me, but trust me, you don't want to be me, because it takes like a certain level of fuck upness to be this good at what I'm doing, or something like that. Like, it was that kind of, I don't know, like genuine non-cockiness, but acceptance of how talented, or how much talent shone through in the work that he put out in that particular work. And he also this is like based on a true story. Like I said, it's by a drama biography. David Foster Wallace also fucking killed himself, and that fucking sucks. Because just from, like, if you guys, again, check out that This Is Water, check out the movie's dope. But if you want something quick and now, check out This Is Water on YouTube by David Foster Wallace. It's a dope commencement speech with some like really good advice. And aside from that, I went to see Bill Burr, the amazing, fucking hilarious Bill Burr, at Madison Square Garden. He rounded off his countrywide tour at Madison Square Garden. It was the final night of his tour. And those of you that, again, have been living under a rock, Bill Burr is super hilarious, a comic's comic. He is one of the greats already. He is, like, I told a coworker of mine that was like, oh shit, Bill Burr, I saw him, you know, fucking a couple years ago. Not a couple years ago. He told me it was like 10 years ago. He saw him, and it was like at some bar or something like that. But he's been like one of those, he was like, oh, he's that big playing MSG. And just to give you guys an idea, like, he played MSG, not the theater. He played MSG, the Garden, like 18,000 fucking person arena. I think 15,000 when you play a concert. Oh no, I think it is 18,000, and then 19,000 when, you know, during games when it's like all in the round. Whereas the theater holds like 5,000 or something like that. And Bill Burr is going to be, like I told him, I was having this conversation with my fiance also, like how they speak of the greats now, in terms of comedy, when, you know, George Carlin, which is my favorite, or Pryor and Chris Rock and Louis C.K. and like all the greats of comedy, like arguably, you know, top 5, you know, just shuffle the order around, but it's those. Bill Burr is up there and is going to be like, you know, in the years to come, he's gonna solidify that, like, without a doubt. And many say that he's there already. But he's definitely going to be, if not already, 100% will be. And he's like one of those. And it was just a fucking awesome night with my fiance, who also really likes Bill Burr. We've seen all his specials, and I listened to his Monday morning podcast, which I recommend, which is my podcast actually is kind of like somewhat modeled after his, in the sense of he just goes off the dome and it's just him talking. And it is like he very, very, very rarely does interviews. So like in that sense, my podcast is similar to his, and but his podcast is fucking amazing. And mine is dog shit compared to it, but it does have that similarity. He's super hilarious, and it was in like a really memorable, really cool time. And I'm really glad that I got to see him. Just like anybody now that could say, oh, I saw, Bill Cosby when, Bill Cosby had Bill Cosby and wasn't a fucking serial rapist. Or I saw Carlin live and stuff like that, I could say I saw Bill Burr live, and that's really fucking cool. Really happy about that. What was I gonna say? He had Joe Verzi, which was really funny, and I'm sorry, Paul Verzi, which is really funny. Sorry about that. I hadn't seen his any of his stuff before, and I know he has a podcast as well, which I haven't heard, but it's called the Verzi Effect, if I'm not mistaken. And he had also featuring or middling from was Joe DeRosa. He was fucking funny. He was super funny, and I really enjoyed him a lot. Actually, he did like this impression of Burr, which fucking killed it. Like he sounded just like him, and like he was like, Bill Burr called him to say, hey Paul, want to do MST with me? And he just fucking spot on imitation of him, and was super hilarious. And then there were these, what I now know, because I heard the podcast, and supposedly they weren't hecklers, but there was this group of people that when Verzi was up, and when Joe DeRosa went up, they were like, it seemed like they were heckling, like they were like booing and being loud and shit. And like Verzi said something to them, and Joe DeRosa too. What Joe DeRosa said was hilarious. He was like, yo, motherfuckers, this isn't a Green Day concert. Fucking yelling out for fucking songs that you want and shit. Shut the fuck up. Sorry, I'm sorry for trying to fucking enjoy one of the greatest moments of my life, playing at fucking Madison Square Garden. And it was just like really funny. But it turns out supposedly that like the audio was fucked up in like that area of the stadium, so they couldn't hear it. So they were like making noise about that, like that they couldn't hear the fucking acts, which sucks for them. But I heard it, so I'm straight. And it was an amazing time. It was really cool. So let me read, because we're almost at a fucking hour already. Let me read to you guys the two passages from the Tao Te Ching, and it's number 33 and number 44. Give me 1 second. Let's grab the book. I had the book in my bag, and let me see. What am I up to, by the way? I'm up to number 53 or 54. This is passage 33, which I really liked. It's a short one. Excuse me. All right. Clearing my zombie voice there. All right. Number 33 says, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. If you realize that you have enough, you are truly rich. If you stay in the center and embrace death with your whole heart, you will endure forever. I thought that was dope. And that was number 33. It was a Tao Te Ching. And number 44, which I also want to share with you guys. Before, I don't know why I'm like, how am I going to follow the fucking Tao Te Ching? I'm fucking reading Tao Te Ching before I read a couple of my free writing fucking pseudo philosophical fucking free writing and shit. Yeah, it's a fucking smart move on my part. Number 44 from the Tao Te Ching is fame or integrity? Which is more important? Money or happiness? Which is more valuable? Success or failure? Which is more destructive? If you look to others for fulfillment, you will never truly be fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. That one was really dope as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed those two. Because what you're about to hear, you're really not going to enjoy. Let me stop beating myself up, right? If I didn't think they were... Well, if I didn't like them, I wouldn't fucking read them. Because there's a shitload that I haven't read to you guys. But here are a couple of my free writing pieces, and then we're going to follow that up with the questionnaire that was filled out that I'll get to. And let's begin with... there's a post from November 13th, 2015. That's when I posted it on the actual website. And it was actually ran back in like 2013. This one is a short one. The title of it is Wanting versus Doing. So let's read it and reflect on it a little bit. Wanting versus doing. And again, if you guys want to follow along, this is at spuntoday.com/free writing. And again, it was posted on the blog on November 13th, 2015. And the title is Wanting versus Doing. I wrote, what is the difference between wanting to do and actually doing? What is the catalyst that sparks change? Where exactly is that switch, and how can we switch it? I guess it varies from person to person and is definitely situational. But what's the, quote, rule of thumb, unquote? Is there even one? I strongly believe that what is wanted and envisioned can be cultivated, and almost all scenarios share the ingredient of hard work. But how frustrating is it to actually get on the path towards it? Could doing this be it? And that's it. That was a short one. I wrote that on Wednesday, July 24th, 2013 at 1:30 a.m., which is probably why it's so short, because I was probably tired at that time. And I guess, or what I think I mean by it, and at least my interpretation of it right now, is, like I always say there at the end, there's an ingredient of hard work. Like I always say that, always work hard for what you want. Hard work, hard work, hard work. I think that's really the key to fucking everything. But how frustrating is it to actually get on the path towards it? And could doing this be it? By that part, I know what I meant by that part. And it's a question that I kind of, not answered, but I kind of feel that I know the answer to. And it's, could doing this be it? Meaning, could doing this, doing what I was doing at that point in time on July 24, 2013 at 1:30 in the morning, which was just writing. Could doing this be it? Because within the realm of my interests, if you will, which is to be what I would deem a credible writer. So I'm speaking within that context when I wrote this, and I'm asking, could doing this be it? And I really think it is. I really think it's frustrating to think that there is a set path to doing certain things, to following certain passions, but I don't think that there are. I don't think that everything has a defined path and way to accomplish it and get to it. If you want to be a lawyer, go to law school and take the bar. Yeah, there's certain things that are black and white like that, but for other things that are a bit more nuanced and don't really have defined steps, they can be approached literally from any direction, any which way, including, writing. You could stumble upon writing when you're fucking 70 years old. You could, pull a Stephen Pressfield and write books and screenplays, and nothing ever gets picked up until The Legend of Bagger Vance, and that blows the fuck up and becomes a movie when you're like 40 something or 50 years old. And then write shit like Stephen Pressfield also wrote the War of Art, which I tribute to like changing my life. A very influential book. And so Stephen Pressfield, you have an open invitation to be on the Spun Today podcast. If you ever would like to be, hit me up at Spun Today on Twitter. Or you can have blow up as a writer like I forget his name, Justin something. He was on Rogan's podcast. I read the book. My brother also put me out to that book. My brother put me out to a bunch of shit, man. Thanks, bro. I think the book was... I'm confusing him with Juno Diaz right now. Because it's not This Is How You Lose Her, but it was... Oh, Shit My Dad Says. And then he wrote another book about a chick. But Shit My Dad Says was a book that he wrote, and he's like 20-something when he wrote it, and he literally like just started a Twitter, and he started writing out shit on Twitter of shit that his dad says, and then he got approached to like make a book based on all those tweets, and just formulate them in a cohesive book fashion, and he blew up that way. So what I mean, there's like no set path to like this shit or any like artistic like endeavor like that. And that question at the end is like, could doing this be it? And I really think it is. I really think, not that I'm anywhere near where I want to be within the field of writing. Like I don't feel like accomplished. I don't think you should ever feel accomplished with like passions or anything like that. But why have I done a fucking podcast and a website? But but I did do a podcast and a website. I've been doing a podcast for a year. The website has been on for the same amount of time as well. And it's a hobby and a passion that I have, that I enjoy and that I look forward to do. And, back in 2013, like, it didn't exist. It was just notebooks and paper. And then, so the answer to that question, if I had to look back and answer it to myself, could doing this be it? The answer would be yes. Because, like, this has set me on a path to then create, every other piece of writing that I've done in the 2+ years after that, and short stories which didn't exist at that point in time, and a shitload of other free writing pieces, and the website and the podcast and stuff like that, which isn't quote unquote success or anything like that. I don't have any like delusions of grandeur or anything like that, but on a certain personal level, it is a definite win. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I feel about that one. Went off on a little rant there. And the next and last one that I'm going to read is also from November 13, 2015. And the title of it is Don't Miss Out on a Better You. And I wrote, this one's a little bit longer. What changes you? Let me start that one over. Don't miss out on a better you. What changes you? Are all parts and aspects of you susceptible to change? Or is there a core unalterable you? That sounds more like it to me. The best of both worlds. I always want both, right? Fuck. Fucking greedy. That sounds more like it to me. The best of both worlds. You have what makes you uniquely you, and you also have an absorbent ability to accept additional knowledge and change accordingly. What causes these changes? Not as in what events cause this, but as in what within you evokes this green light effect in which you allow certain events or experiences to affect you in some way, shape, or form. What within you allows a book to have such a profound connection that it opens up your eyes to never before considered angles and interpretations? What allows the conversation of a podcast to expand your mind? What allows unskewed data from a recent news article to aid in the shaping a political opinion? It's all a question of what do you let in to truly analyze and objectively tackle. It all boils down to a choice. Make yourself open enough not to miss out on a better you. And I wrote that on Sunday, July 21st, 2013 at 11:51 p.m. And I think this is a shitload of questions in here, so I'm not going to answer all of them. A lot were rhetorical, obviously, but they're, I don't know, like interesting points that I want to pull out here. What causes these changes? So yeah, it's like what within you, like what is that like mood or like filter within you that sometimes allows, you know that feeling that you get like when you hear a certain song that just fucking fuses you with inspiration and makes you want to go like write or work out or whatever it is that you're into, that when you hear it you just fucking feel like fucking makes you want to cry, sometimes make you cry, makes you fucking laugh and happy and like appreciate life and appreciate shit. And songs do that, movies do that, quotes do that, videos do that, podcasts do that to me all the fucking time. Books, like I mentioned before, The War of Art, life-changing, like things like that. What within you allows, because certain things like that don't always just like force themselves upon you. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not open, like you're always not open to anything, and then it comes in and it breaks down all your barriers and walls and shit like that instantly, and changes you. There's certain things that you kind of sort of like have to be open for, like open to, and things catch you like in different moments and in different moods, and I guess that's what it is, different moods that you're in or happen to be in, and kind of like opportunity, like we were speaking about in the beginning of the show, how certain circumstances and opportunities line up in like just the right way for things to happen the way that they do. I guess it holds true within this sense. Sometimes you're in the perfect mood to read the perfect quote that puts you in the perfect mind frame to go write the best short story that you've ever written or something like that. And that's, I don't know, that relationship there just I find fascinating and interesting and curious. I'm curious about it. And the main takeaway, I guess, here would be pointing out that you and me and like everybody has a choice to kind of not put up the walls that keep these inputs out. Like it's important to, I think, weed out the bullshit and cut off negativity and stuff like that, but be open to all these inputs that could help mold and shape your beliefs, like not being too like rigid and set in your ways that you won't accept the possibility of something being helpful or better for you. And I think that's really important. It's really important to look at things from a lot of different angles and not be like, I like Eminem, so since he didn't like Everlast back in the day, I can't listen to any Everlast songs. You know what I mean? Like fucking Everlast has a fucking dope acoustic album that I like as well. And that's like on a very, very fucking trivial level in terms of like taste in music, but on a bigger sense and in more like, I guess, personal sense in life, in in your human development and growing as a person, don't be too quick to shut experiences down that should be had and that you should go through, that will ultimately help mold you and build you up into a more well-rounded, more colorful, more layered version of you. And that is all, folks, regarding my 2 free writing pieces. There's a shitload more on the website. You guys can check them out always at spuntoday.com/free writing, or check into any of these free writing podcast episodes where I do what I just did, which is read a couple pieces and reflect on them. It's older pieces, sometimes newer pieces, more recently written, and a lot of them are sometimes free writing pieces that are written based off of certain quotes or movies and stuff like that, and I detail all that. You guys can find that easily within that section and distinguish what's what. Now, to round off the show, we have listener. I want to say a listener. I'm not sure if you're a listener, Christa, but I know we connected on Twitter, and she filled out the Spun Today questionnaire, which again is open for any and everyone to fill out. And the way it works is go to spuntoday.com/questionnaire, and you can fill out 5 questions, which is meant to basically inspire others and as well as myself in just finding out how people do whatever it is that they do, whatever it is that they're into, whatever it is that they're creatively into, whether it be writing or comedy or acting, whatever it is that you're into on a creative tip, fucking making pencils out of tree bark and lead, whatever it is that you like, whatever it is. I think there's you can take greatness and passion from anything and apply it to whatever you're passionate about and want to be great at. And I think these 5 questions that I put together there on the questionnaire are pretty open-ended question, and I get helpful stuff from them, and I find certain things helpful and funny and interesting, and other people can and do as well. So we have, and of course you have the option to remain anonymous, where I will read your responses on the podcast, and I don't have to say who the hell you are or anything like that. And it's the last drop down on the list of questions, of the 5 questions. There's a little box at the bottom. Right after that says remain anonymous, yes or no. If you click no, I'll tell people who you are. If you click yes, I'll keep it anonymous. Today's entry is from a young lady by the name of Christa, and she goes by Twitter handle Girl Oxygen, spelled same exact way as those 2 words are spelled. Girl, Girl, and Oxygen, Oxygen. Christa, thanks in advance very much for filling this out. And let's go through it. Let's share what you shared with us here. So question number 1 of the questionnaire is, relating to your craft, do you remember the first thing you ever wrote or created? Christa responded, I was a hairstylist for 18 years. That's a long time to be doing a specific thing. That's love right there. I was a hairstylist for 18 years, but forced to retire due to being diagnosed with a rare fatal lung disease called pulmonary hypertension. And that's really horrible. And sorry that you're dealing with that. And she goes on to explain it's high blood pressure of the arteries inside the lungs and eventually leads to right heart failure. That was 5 years ago. I've always enjoyed taking photos with my phone, so I decided to invest in an Nikon. I haven't. That's an awesome camera, by the way. I'm not sure which one you have, but Nikons are, up there, like top two, or if not like the best, it's like top 1, 2, or 3 like cameras, like on like any list that you look at. So it's really cool. She goes on here to say, I haven't felt well enough to really take it out, which sucks, and I hope that that's something that you can continue to work at. I'm not sure exactly how the pulmonary hypertension works, and hopefully it is something that I know you mentioned that it's a fatal lung disease, which is really sad, but like I said, I don't know much about it. I did see that there's a link on your Twitter page, and I began to read a little bit about it, but I don't know much about it in the sense of if there's like ups and downs. Hopefully there is, and you are able to get out there and use your camera and take some pictures. But she goes on to say, and it's really cool. She goes on to say, my sister has a BFA in graphic design, but decided to go back to earn her teaching certificate. Now she's an art teacher. What better person could help me with painting? Which is cool. That'd be awesome, right? Keep it like within the family. Your sister becomes a teacher. You want to learn painting. She becomes an art teacher. Sounds perfect. She goes on to say, we didn't get to paint together, so I started watching the Art Sphera. No, I'm sorry. The Art Sherpa. Completely butchered that. The Art Sherpa videos on YouTube. I've been painting on and off since April of this year. I've painted, and this year, for any listeners in the future, is 2015. From April of this year, I've painted over 50 canvases since April. So you got April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Not even 3, because Christa, if I'm not mistaken, you filled this out, when was it? Like the beginning of November, right? So August. So in 7 months, you did 50 canvases. That's awesome. That's fucking really prolific. That's really cool. And I've even sold some. So on top of putting your all into it, you're actually fucking good at what you do. So it's really super cool. That's so rewarding. My first painting was a whimsical tree. I paint with acrylics, but I'm dabbling in watercolors. And that's Chris's answer to question number 1, which is so fucking awesome and really inspiring to hear something like that. And I know a lot of other people are going to be inspired by the same. And I love that aspect of dealing with something, so with a disease that's fatal in this specific case, and having the gumption to follow up your passion still, which is so like admirable and really awesome. And not only follow your passion, because you have a passion for something, and then even if you were like, it kind of knocked you down and you weren't able to go out and take pictures with the camera that you invested in, but you took that passion and you channeled it into something else, and you still allow just that raw passion to fucking pour out of you and like come out. And I'm sure I would love to see some of your like paintings and stuff like that. I checked to see on your Twitter page if there's a link to the paintings or anything like that, and I didn't find that. I just found the link to the pulmonary hypertension website, which, if anybody wants to know again more about the disease and stuff like that, check it out on there. Again, Christa, it's Girl Oxygen is her Twitter handle. She has a link right there on her profile. But I would definitely love for you to like tweet me a link or DM me a link or something like that, if you have any of your paintings anywhere. If you don't, I would recommend crated.com, CRATED.com. It's actually a website that I partnered with. It's like free to like partner up with them, and you can like put up your stuff there. And I put like the photography that I take, I put on there, and people can like purchase prints, like posters and canvases and stuff like that of like actual photography. But I'm pretty sure you can sell all types of art like through there. I'm not positive, but check it out. It's worth checking out. Like I said, in terms of photography, it was free. They just take a cut when anybody purchases any like posters or prints or anything like that. So check it out. Again, it's called Crated, CRATED.com. But again, if you have like your stuff on any other website or pictures of it or anything like that, like I would definitely love to see it. It sounds really awesome. And that's fucking, I wish in 7 months I could sit down and create 50 of anything. And that's really inspirational, and just lit a fire under my ass to fucking go do some writing. So thank you. Question number 2 is, what inspires you to write or create? And Christa responds, honestly, I paint because it's great therapy when you're too sick to leave the house because of a chronic illness. And definitely I agree with that in terms of like passions and stuff that you're into being completely therapeutic and cathartic. And I'm glad it's having that positive effect on you. Question number 3. What is a hobby that you have that is unrelated to your craft? And Krista responded, I love TV, probably too much. And you remind me of my fiance, who I'm sure completely shares in your sentiment for television. She continues to say, I love comedies, things about monsters, and so I'm guessing like The Walking Dead. That's my little zombie sounds. And the History Channel. I wanted to make a point when I read this before to put you on to, if Krista and anybody else who's listening also, if you don't know already, you're gonna love me after this. If you're into history, and especially like the History Channel, like that narrated style of history, check out a podcast called Hardcore History. It's with Dan Carlin. It's a podcast that's always like in top 10 in iTunes like all the time. And it's super dope. If you have any inkling whatsoever towards history, like even if you like it a little bit, he will make you love history. And if you love history, he'll fucking blow your mind. He'll blow the top off your head, like those fucking Jet.com commercials that they're giving now. It's really dope. Definitely check it out. It's a podcast called Hardcore History. It's with Dan Carlin, and the work and passion, like he's a fucking like awesome. He's fucking awesome. He's like a gem, a fucking what's the word I'm looking for? He's a treasure. The like podcast episodes, and what I love about podcasts, you can pause them, pick them up, and put them down whenever you want. They are literally, I think, like 4 hours long, and he'll go so deep into the history of a specific topic that it would be like 3, 4, 5 episodes long. So you're talking like 20 to 25 hours worth of content on a specific historical topic. And the passion and work that he puts into each and every episode completely comes out, completely shines through, completely comes out like through his microphone, out of the earbuds and into your ears. Like, it's really, really dope. Couldn't recommend it enough. So if you like history, definitely check him out. Again, it's Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. And we're up to question number 4, which is, how do you get yourself to sit down and do your work when you're not motivated to? And Chris's response is, I don't really have to work. So that's probably why it's so easy to sit down with it. Haha. And that's awesome. When, it's like that saying, and when you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's really awesome that you found that. And glad that you are like so invested in that. And that's something that you hear a lot with people that like fall in love with what they do, which is really cool, and a place I definitely want to be in. I think, the only place actually that it's not completely like across the board, I would say, is within writing, because there's like a through line within, that's common within, or with writers rather, that you just fucking hate to sit down and do the work. Like, you fucking hate it. You hate to have to actually write and do it, but you love to have written. And that's like a famous quote or whatever. I hate to write, but I love to have written. And some people actually like the process. Like me, I've like, so there's two sides to it, I guess. Like, people that just completely hate putting in the work to do it, to write. And then there's where I fall, which is I hate the part of getting myself to do it. Kind of like getting up and going to the gym. Like, I hate like sitting down and saying, okay, now I gotta write. But once I start, like literally once the pen touches the paper, it's completely awesome and like cathartic and therapeutic, and all that like comes out like literally instantly each and every time. And especially when you get into like a flow state, and ideas and thoughts are just rolling around in your head, and you pouring out of you. And then afterwards, when you have something, whether it's a free writing piece, or when you finish writing first draft of a short story, or anything else that you're working on, like having that body of work in front of you, whether no matter how like good or bad you may think it is, it's like you're kind of proud of it. Like, it's like a proud moment, like something that you reflect on. It's like, oh shit, I just fucking like made that, I created that. Like, it didn't exist before, and now it does. And I just made that happen. And that's really cool to like birth something into existence like that. So definitely kudos to you on that, on loving what you do and not feeling like it's work at all. And the last question that Christa answered is, do you have any advice for other writers or creators, whether they're new, seasoned, or otherwise? And Christa says, don't ever say I can't do that until after you've actually tried it. You may surprise yourself. I didn't think I could paint, and I painted 6 Darth Vaders, that's dope, in one day, plus some other commissioned Star Wars pieces. That was after only painting for 2 months. And, well, Miss Lady, you have definitely talented. And again, I want to see, like you're talented just based on the stuff that you're telling us here. Painting for 2 months and selling Darth Vaders, and just selling any paintings, and it sounds so dope. And you're really prolific, and it's really inspiring. And I wish you all the best, and continued health and success in what you do. And thank you very much for taking the time to share your story with us, and share in general. Continue painting, continue loving what you do, and definitely hit me up on Twitter, like I said. Tweet it at me, like a link with your paintings and stuff like that, and I'll definitely retweet it. And guys, anybody listening, if you guys want to check it out, or check out Christa, you can reach out to her on Twitter. And again, her handle is @girloxygen, GIRLOXYGEN. And that's it, folks. That's the episode. I'm not going to bore you with all the outro stuff. You guys know where to reach me. If you want to reach me, spuntoday.com has all of the information that I would normally tell you at this point of the episode, from Twitter to Instagram to Facebook to YouTube to the newsletter to supporting the podcast. One thing I would say to support the podcast, rate and review, bitches. Rate and review the podcast on Instagram, on iTunes and or Stitcher, and also on Pocket Casts, which you can listen to the podcast on there as well. Join in some conversation, comment on some of the free writing posts or and stuff like that. And whatever. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. As always, as usual, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thank you very much for listening.